welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our movie review for The Fablemans. The Fablemans is directed by Steven Spielberg and stars Michelle Williams, Paul Dano, Gabriel LaBelle, and Seth Rogen. The film follows young Sammy Fableman who falls in love with the movies after seeing The Greatest Show on Earth. Before we saw the movie, I already knew that this had made its way around the film festival circuit. It won People's Choice Award at TIFF, which, I'm not even a little bit surprised. This is directed by the Steven Spielberg. What's interesting about this movie, because we saw a trailer of it and I was like, well, hold on now. It very much mirrors his own childhood life, his home life. Names have been changed, but I think experiences and certain beats certainly mirrors that. And this is a very family life driven, so it's not as grand like this, compared to his last movie. It's West Side Story. He's not telling his own story, right? And it's big, it's grand, it's very, very cinematic. This one's a lot more grounded, as it is centered around the family, the Fablemans.
And it's pretty much just how what was the kid's name?
Sammy.
Sammy, that's right. How Sammy Fableman, as a young child, fell in love with movies after watching The Greatest Show, and was like, I want to do this. I want to figure out how to do this. I would love bringing this to life and seeing how that has impacted every little portion of his life moving forward. But yet there's still that, the things that happen to everyone in their life, certain events that have big pivotal moments and big character changes for certain people, but yet it's that connection to film that drives Sammy forward as he goes through his life experiences.
Yes. Props to the actor who plays both very young Sammy and then teenage year, the Sammy who we see in the rest of the film, because I really, really enjoyed his performance. Paul Dano caught me by surprise because we watched the trailer and I didn't realize it was him until I sat down at the screening. I was like, wait, it's Paul Dano, who we absolutely enjoy.
Yes, I mean, there was a moment that I was like, wait a second, where do I know him? He's the Riddler. That's right.
Yes.
And to be able to see him, he plays these kind of characters very well. In the movie, he plays an engineer that is leaps and bounds beyond his years, to where everyone's like, he is thinking of these new things, this new computing system. How does it work? And he's, of course, like, I know exactly what to do, what the future of this technology, but everyone else gets just lost in the dust. But he's a very calm, cool, collected, very control of his emotions, very, how can I say it, very bland kind of personality, to where I can be like, he's a wonderful husband, but he's really not that much fun to be around. He cares for his family, but he's kind of boring, and I don't understand a word that he's talking about.
But he is that, stabilizing factor in the family, supportive.
Yes.
Whatever the kids and the wife needed, he supported, always happy to go along with whatever. And really, he wasn't the one that was, really encouraging Sammy's filmmaking. So in the trailer, we see that you guys heard this in the synopsis as well that we just said towards the beginning of this review. The parents take Sammy to a film, The Greatest Show on Earth. And what he was fixated on wasn't just the moving pictures, as it was actually his first moving picture. And he was actually quite resistant to going in because the theater was going to be dark. It was his first experience. And I understand, a lot of kids are like, well, what do you mean it's going to be dark? Some kids don't like the dark, and I totally get that. But he was not fascinated with just the fact that it's, picture moving on a giant screen, but it was a very specific scene that involved a train crash, and that stuck with Sammy, so much so that he wanted to control it. He wanted to be able to recreate it and figure out how it happened because it scared him.
Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate seeing that, and as this film is a mirror of Steven Spielberg's life, to see because I think we know a lot about how he started and that he's much older, college years.
Yeah, and also that is one thing. This is very much a mirror of Steven Spielberg's life, to where they could have very much have just called it The Spielbergs instead of The Fablemans, because even at very soon in this movie, you realize what it is. It's Steven Spielberg pouring out his heart, pouring out his soul about the big important moments of his life that made him want to become a filmmaker. And when I first saw the trailer, I thought it was going to end up kind of going in a little bit of a different direction, to where maybe we were going to focus a little bit more on his big time, not what the moments right before he became super big.
Yes.
But this is actually more along the lines of his upbringing.
Yeah.
So it is very much about the family dynamic. It is more about his life with his friends and his life, the things he had to go through at school.
Yeah, he definitely talked about the anti-Semitic experiences at school, which I actually didn't expect to, because I didn't know about it. Because again, what we focused on mostly when you think Steven Spielberg, not just his filmography, but how he got started as far as like career, school, and all of that. So the years prior to that, I didn't really ever dig into. So to see that play on the big screen and to watch how awful it was for him to experience all of that, I think for Spielberg, it was important to tell that part of the story, to let people know that, yeah, that definitely happened to me, getting bullied for, getting
for being
beat
Jewish.
up for being Jewish. So like, I'm glad he got to tell that, and as well as like telling about the family dynamic. There was something within the family that happened. I don't want to go too much into it because I want to have some parts of it remain spoiler free for you guys, but to see how he dealt with it, his other family members dealt with it, how his parents dealt with it. So I felt like it was really important to see. And there's some of the other like kind of crazy stuff that happened that I wonder if it's he put in for just for the movie's sake to build
effect,
or like it actually happened. And honestly, I've been thinking about it. I would not be surprised if that did happen.
Yes, there were some moments that you're sitting there going, is this dramatized or is this what really happened?
Yes.
And I'm really curious. I mean, like, honestly, I should probably go out and read Steven Spielberg's autobiography and find out, because he's been such a huge influence in the filmmaking industry for decades, since, from Jaws to E.T. to, so many movies that have just influenced generations of, one, filmmakers, and two, film goers. So when you're going through his life, you can see what really influenced him to tell certain stories. The thing is, though, when you're going through his entire life, there's points to where you're starting to be like, you catch on to things before they really start to dive into them in this movie. So there's moments that you're like, okay, I've kind of gotten the point of this, but then they start the deep dive into certain aspects of events that happened in his life. So there's moments that I kind of felt like, okay, I've already had this realization. Now we just need to wait for everyone else in the movie to have this realization as well. Yeah,
that part took a little bit. It needed to build. And I just feel like this was... we kind of said something similar about Belfast, how that is a very personal story to Kenneth Branagh. I feel like this is a very personal one for Spielberg, and he, out of his entire career of making films, directing films, he has not gotten to tell his own story. So now he gets to, so I'm really happy for him, and I'm not really, again, surprised that it won People's Choice Awards. I do feel like it's a tad bit long for me, because it was just... I feel like there were moments that we've already gotten the point across, but we continue to stay in it. But again, this was him wanting to tell that story. So whatever those moments are left in, I felt like that was important for him as a director to keep that in, regardless of runtime.
Yeah, and this is definitely a filmmaker's movie.
Yes.
To where you are sitting in these moments, to where you are diving into the emotional subtext of what a character is saying, doing, thinking, and acting. And you can tell, Steven Spielberg has been a master of this for years.
Yeah.
To be able to get his actors to do and feel certain things. So this very much is for directors, actors, film buffs. And I can see why it definitely won at TIFF, because it is very much a filmmaker's movie.
Yeah, watching him as a very young filmmaker, just being interested in moving pictures, and watching him how to figure out camera, falling in love with cameras, the filmmaking, the directing, how he creates certain things, watching it, like, that's pretty fascinating to me. Because that's a brilliant mind to be like, I don't like how this looks. How do I make it better? and just really thinking outside the box and made it better to the point where the adults, his engineering dad, going, how did you do that? A computer engineer going, how did you do that? So I really enjoyed seeing that. We're going to go ahead and get to our rating. If you want to check out our movie rating system, it is listed for you in the video description below. I'm going to give this movie a matinee. I think it is important to see this film. I don't believe it is something that you need to run out like opening night to see. I mean, obviously, if you do, you do you. And you'll have a good time, especially if you are a fan of Spielberg's work, of his filmography, and you want to see how it got all started.
I honestly do see the value in this movie, to where it is very much a filmmaker's movie, but I think a lot of other people who maybe go to the films not quite as often are going to feel a little bored and feel like this movie does drag on a little bit. So I'm going to give it a stream it.
Well, you guys, let us know your thoughts about The Fablemans in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.